Hi, everybody. We are having a few people trickle in here, so we're going to get them admitted, and I'm going to just move forward and start with our presentation. So, first and foremost, I just want to welcome you and thank you for joining us today. I know it's the middle of the summer, and this is probably the last thing you want to be thinking about as you're enjoying your break. But for some of you, you might be a bit anxious and want to get this process going. So, we'd like to offer this as soon as we're able to. And then I just want to let you know that this presentation will be recorded. And so please mute yourself if you haven't already and turn your cameras off if you're a little camera shy. That's okay. At the end, if there are any questions, you can unmute yourself and put those questions in the chat feature if you want, or you can just kind of verbally shout them out at the end of the presentation, and we're happy to address any and all of those questions you may have. As you know, this visa workshop is for our spring 2027 term. And so those dates of the program are January 13th, 2027 through April 30th, 2027. And just so you know, all these slides will be available to you hopefully by the end of this week, if not by early next week. I'll send a little recap with an attachment to the video and the slides in an email. And then, of course, we will upload those to our Go Global brochure page that I'm hoping all of that is familiar to you. There's a wealth of information on there, but there is a tab on that brochure page in our Go Global that specifically talks about passport and visas. So that video, this video here, along with the slides that we're going to go through today, will be uploaded there for you to use as a resource to go back. And so, with that, I am going to move us along. I think it's important that you know who are the staff people that you're going to work with here on the Chicago side of things, especially with the visas. So, my name's Alana Carroll. I am the study abroad coordinator, and this is my contact information. I work on all things post acceptance for the Rome Center. Especially the biggest part is the student visa, hence this presentation and me presenting. So, I am your point person should you have any questions related to study abroad and the Rome Center, especially with the visas. Of course, the next two people I'm going to introduce here should look familiar. Perhaps you've worked with them when you were first interested in the Rome Center and or through the application process. And that is Abby Linneman and Adam Schilling. They are our Rome Center Assistant Directors for recruitment. They, of course, are a wealth of information and knowledge for you as well. But if you do have those post-acceptance visa questions, try to direct them towards me. Abby and Adam, of course, can answer some of those questions, but I'm going to be your main source. And so we don't want to take up their time as much if possible. So kind of guide or filter all those questions towards me. But again, if you forget, and you ask them a question, they're happy to answer it or redirect you to me. The other person here on the staff side of things in Chicago is Marley Stein. She is our director of study abroad. Most of you will not necessarily work with her. It's more of a higher level. Obviously, she's the director of study abroad. So if something comes up and we have to escalate it, you'll most likely work with Marley. But anything else, it'll be me for post acceptance. Anything in general about the Rome Center, you can talk to Adam, Abby, or myself. And just know that we are here for you. So, should you have any questions, we are a resource. We want to make this as seamless as possible for you, pain-free. We try our best. So, we have a lot of information. We work with students every semester. I've been doing this for nearly 9 years. So, you know, please utilize your resources, and that is us. And so that's why we have an introduction to who we are and our email for you so that you can go back and reach out should you have any questions. This is just kind of an overview of what that workshop that we're doing today is going to be. So this is specifically for the student visa. So we're going to talk about, do you need a visa? I get that a lot of time, that question. So we're going to answer that for you. We're going to talk about passport requirements. We're going to talk about determining your consulate. We're also going to talk about choosing your submission method. There's a couple different ways to submit your student visa and what's the best one for you. We're going to talk about the Prenota software system. This is what the Italian consulates use when scheduling appointments with them. And so how to navigate, how to set that up. We're going to talk about the visa documents that you need for your submission. More specifically, we're going to dive into the financial documentation. That seems to be kind of a sore point or a confusing point for students, so I kind of like to do a little larger overview on that. We're going to talk about flight requirements. We're also going to talk about money orders and return envelopes, and this is in relation to the different types of submission as well. And I'll give more details about that as we go through. Lastly, one of the last few items here is the timeline and important dates. And then we're going to talk about what's offered to you as far as resources. Not only do we have this workshop for you, but we're going to have visa workshops throughout the semester here in our office. And then there's always one-on-one Navigate appointments with me that you can set up for any sort of document review. And then lastly, questions. Any particular questions you have about the student visa process, we can discuss those as well. So that's a general overview of what this workshop is going to look like. So let's start with, do you need a visa? That is the biggest question I always get. So who needs a student visa? Visas are required for students without a valid Italian or EU passport. So anybody who does not have a passport that's Italian or EU passport, you will need to get a visa. So be aware of that. For those Italian or EU passport holders that are in this group, no visa is required as long as your passport, your Italian and or EU passport, is valid 6 months beyond the program end date. So at the beginning of this presentation, the end date was April 30th. So your passports, everyone's, has to be valid for 6 months beyond that end date program end date. So be aware of that. So we'll talk about passports and renewing or refreshing a passport in a little bit here. If you do hold that Italian or EU passport, make sure that you upload a copy of that to your Go Global portal. And just shoot me an email so I know, because then I put some what we call tags onto your application so that it excludes you from any reminders about visas. Because if you have that, you don't need to do the visa if you have that Italian or EU passport. So it's great for me to know that information and to upload it so that I can, like I said, mark you off and you don't get all the other emails. Now, if we have any students in our group that are non-US citizens and do not have an Italian or EU passport, you have citizenship outside the US, just contact Rome at luc.edu or me, preferably, and I'll provide you some personalized visa guidance. You're going to have to work with the Italian embassy in your country. So those are a little more, can be a little more complicated. So just reach out to me and I'm happy to walk you through the steps for that. So with passport requirements, this is always a really important one. All students must have a valid passport to study abroad and so that they can obtain a visa if that's required. Of course, again, excluding the EU or Italian passport holders. Your passport, as I mentioned earlier, must be valid for at least 6 months after the program end date. So make sure that's the case. If your passport is expiring sooner and it doesn't meet that requirement of the 6 months, you need to begin that renewal process immediately, because it can take time to get a new passport. And so I want to make sure that you're aware of it. For U.S. passport holders in which your passport is expiring sooner versus later, you're going to apply for that new or renewed passport through the U.S. Department of State. I have hyperlinks, as you can see, they're underlined here. I kind of bold them, put them in different colors. So when you do get this presentation, the slides, you can go back, review it, and you can click on this, and it'll take you right to the section on the U.S. Department of State so that you can renew your passport. So be mindful of that. In addition to that, this is always a good time in which I make a plug to all the students. Bring back your passport, your physical passport, to campus when you return in the fall, in August, actually. It's important because you're going to most likely be working through the Chicago consulate, and we'll dive in a bit more about that and your options, but you're going to want that on hand. Students don't realize that they need their physical passport for the visa submission, and you do. So this is my big plug. Bring that passport back with you to campus. If you forget it, reach out to, if you live locally or not too far, obviously go back on a weekend and get it. But if you forget it, you can always reach out to your parents or guardians and they can send it via FedEx or like UPS, like trackable, and get it to you. But this is why I'm telling you now, bring that passport back with you. Um, Also, you want to make sure that you are able, because of this visa process, as I alluded to a little bit before here, is you are going to be giving your passport up to the consulate for processing. So there's a potential you're going to be without your passport anywhere from 6 to maybe 8 weeks. So it's important that you are aware of that. And so this is a point where some students have not obtained a license. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name. The license in which you can travel with. And so, and they heavily depend on their passport for domestic travel. You want to make sure that you have what you need so that you can travel domestically if your passport is in the process for the student visa. So I just always want to remind students of that. Real ID, that's what I was thinking. If you don't have the real ID, you want to make sure that you get that sooner versus later, especially if you have to travel domestically and therefore you aren't relying on your passport for that domestic travel. For the international students that are in our group, this is my passport reminder to you. As I said, the EU and Italian passport holders, you want to make sure you don't need a visa, but you want to make sure that that's valid. For international students requiring a visa, students who are not citizens of Canada, Japan, or a G7 country, the UK, you will need to schedule an in-person appointment with the Italian consulate because they complete required fingerprinting for you. So if you are an international student that is not part of these three countries, you will need to have that in-person appointment. And so it's important as we progress in this visa workshop that you get these appointments scheduled sooner versus later. And we'll talk about that. Um, Visa processing requirements for the international students, as I said, that is an in-person appointment. So you cannot mail or drop off your visa applications, and therefore you're unable to participate in the group visa submission that I'm going to talk about a little bit later here, that we offer through Loyola. If you have questions about your international status and if you need a visa, you can always go to the website that I have listed below here as well. And so you can revisit and click on that link, or you can reach out to me and I'm happy, like I said, to discuss or go over what is required for you. So let's determine your consulate. Just so you're aware, there are 9 Italian consulates in the United States and 1 embassy. So there are some options and it varies for you. So, determining your visa consulate, your required Italian consulate is based on your state of residency and or your school jurisdiction. As Loyola students, you all have jurisdiction to the Chicago consulate. So everything I'm going to talk about moving forward with this student visa workshop is going to be in relation to the Chicago consulate. And so I just kind of warn some of the students that each consulate can have varying requirements. So you're going to have to really look at their website. And I'm happy to help you through that, but I just want to let you know. But some of you students may have multiple consulate options, especially like our visiting students. So I want you, again, there's a hyperlink here that gives the consulate jurisdiction list. So if, you're a East Coast or West Coast student, you have options. You could do the one that's for your home state, or you could do Loyola. Again, I'm going to highly encourage you to do the Chicago one because you're a Loyola student. It's right in our backyard, per se. It's downtown, so it's easy. But again, feel free to make your decision based off of what works for you. So we also have the link here for the Consulate General of Italy in Chicago for you as a quick reference. So let's talk about submission methods that you're going to have available to you for this visa process. So the one that is the easiest and highly, highly recommended approach is to do what's called the group visa submission. This is where our office will process, we'll walk you through the steps, right? We're going through this visa workshop now. You're going to see the checklist, things that you have to collect, but you're going to bring all of those documents along with the visa application, and we're going to do the submission for you. But what that entails is you are going to have to make an appointment, and that appointment is going to be through Navigate. And in Navigate, I want to make sure that you select my name, Alana Carroll, and the proper category, which is going to be the Rome Group Visa application submission. And so the available dates in which we are doing this collection of meeting with you, going through your documents, and taking that from you so that I can submit it to the Chicago consulate is going to happen on Tuesday, September 8th, Wednesday, September 9th, and Thursday, September 10th. We have different appointment times from 9 to 11:30 and then 1 to 4:30. They are 15-minute slots. So it's important that you bring your completed student visa packet. Oops, let me go back there. Sorry. Um, we'll go back there. Bring your completed student visa packet to the study abroad appointment here. It'll be myself and some of my colleagues, and we want to make sure that you have everything together. We will not accept it unless you have all the documents ready to go. You want to make sure that your signature is notarized before you bring that application here to us. And so we have notaries on site here in the Sullivan Center on the first floor. It's at no cost, no appointment needed. Just bring your completed visa application to them, and they will witness your signature and stamp it for you, notarize it. Make sure that you again have your physical passport. You're going to need that. In addition to that, as a reminder, like I stated, you will not have your visa, your passport, for the duration of time in which we collect it, take it down to the Chicago consulate, they process it and bring it back. So again, just be mindful of that. So you won't be able to do any international travel while this is being processed. And so these are things you have to factor in to determine if you want to participate in the group visa submission. It's fairly early enough, so it should be back in time for Thanksgiving, hopefully way before that. But again, you want to think ahead on some of these things. If you do have some travel, is this the right submission for you? But again, I highly encourage you. It's a little bit faster doing the group visa submission. It's easier. We take the hassle out of you having to make an appointment through the Italian consulate, having to go down there. We review all your documents ahead of time. So highly encourage you to do that, okay? The next one, should you decide not to do the group visa submission, you're going to have to do an independent submission, and there are different methods to that independent submission. Okay, so who can apply? Again, all the students are eligible to apply through the General Consulate of Italy in Chicago. Again, if you have jurisdiction in other consulates due to your home residency, feel free to use that consulate if you want. But again, I just like always telling students each consulate can be very different with their requirements. So make sure that you're on their website looking at what they're requesting for their visa submission. Again, if you are going to do that independent submission, you have to schedule an appointment through Prenota. That is a software system that the Italian government uses for all their consulates. So in a little bit down the line here in this visa workshop, I'm going to show you how to create an account, how to designate the consulate, and set up that appointment. There are different appointment types, and this can, of course, again, vary depending upon the consulate. But for Chicago, you can have an in-person appointment, which is in front of a visa officer. The other submission option is to do a mail-in, where you collect all your documents and you mail it to them. Um, and the third is a physical drop off where you can go to their consulate and physically drop off all your materials to them. So, but again, like I say, there's some niche things. Like for example, San Francisco consulate requires that a signature on the visa application be witnessed by an honorary consulate, not a notary. So these types of nuances that I want to make you aware of should you decide to use a different consulate than Chicago. And so, of course, I'm going to promote and encourage you to do the group submission. That's going to be the easiest, but just be aware you can do the independent, and there are little things that you're going to have to work through, and I am here to support you and help you through that. So before scheduling your appointment, you're going to have to go on that software that I talked about, the Prenota and software platform, and you're going to have to schedule an appointment. You're going to have to create an account first. And after you create the account, you are going to schedule an appointment. Be aware at that time, you're going to have to upload PDF copies of your passport and your driver's license or state ID. This is where they know, they verify your jurisdiction, and they want to make sure you have a passport. So have those ready in advance when you go to create your Prenota account and schedule your appointment if you're doing the independent submission. After you've scheduled an appointment, you're going to have to submit your completed visa application and supporting documents within 7 days of your appointment date. So if you are doing a mail-in, you have a window of 7 days. I always encourage students, if your appointment's on the first of whatever month, make sure that you have everything there by the first. Even though you do have that 7-day window, it's better to get it right on time. And then again, go through the checklist that I'm going to show you later on where that is, and make sure that your application is signed, witnessed by a notary and signed, unless there's some niche consulate rules like San Francisco and such. So be mindful of the scheduling, what's needed, and the requirements for that. For in-person appointments, if you're doing that independent in-person appointment with a visa officer, you're going to bring your completed visa application and all required documents. I always say some students don't realize when they're scheduling if it falls over like a break, like Thanksgiving or the fall break, make sure you know that you're going to have some travel time to the Chicago consulate if that's what you're doing. So again, that kind of forward thinking with your calendar and your plans. The nice thing with the in-person appointment in front of a visa officer, you do not need to sign your application or have it notarized. You will sign it in front of that visa officer. They act as the notary, the witnessing of your signature. So, little different for those in-person appointments with the visa officer. And then you would bring a self-addressed, prepaid, trackable return envelope. That's how they will get your passport after they processed and approved it. They will put your visa sticker on one of the pages within your passport, and they will return that along with, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, there's an acceptance letter that you're going to submit to within your packet of documents. They will stamp that one of those acceptance letters, and they will return that along with your passport. And both of those things will need to go with you to Italy. So just making sure you are aware of that. For mail-in and or physical drop-off requirements, and again, this is in relation to the Chicago consulate. So if you are doing a physical drop-off, you're going to submit that completed visa application and all the required documents. Again, a reminder, your signature on that visa application must be notarized. We have notary services here. You're going to also include that self-addressed, prepaid, trackable return envelope. If you are doing the mail-in submission to the Chicago consulate, you're going to mail the completed visa application and requirements. Your signature again is going to have to be notarized. You're going to include a self-addressed, prepaid, trackable return envelope inside your shipping envelope. So just be mindful of those different requirements that are needed for mail-in and physical drop-off. So let's talk about next the pre-nota system. If you are going to do an independent submission, as I mentioned earlier, you are going to need to create a pre-nota account, and you're going to have to schedule through their software system. And so again, this is for students that are doing independent submission. So I like to kind of give a visual. When you go onto their pre-nota software system, number one, you're going to have to register your account. So this is what it'll look like. And then you'll click on the button for register your account. You are going to answer a series of questions and select the consulate that you want to schedule with. There is a drop-down menu once you kind of set up your password, your email. I always tell students to use your Loyola email. I think that's the best when doing this. You can use a personal email account if you want, but I encourage you just use your school one. You're going to create a password. You're going to answer a bunch of questions, a series of questions, and then you're going to designate your consulate in that drop-down menu. For the United States, you can look if it's in English, it should be the United States, but typically it's in Italian, and it'll start with Stati, and it'll go from there, and then you'll see the different consulates, the 9 different consulates. You will receive, after you create your account, you'll receive a confirmation email that'll be sent to you so that you can access your account. So that's kind of the steps initially. So register your account, fill out the information, you'll receive the email that will give you access to pre-nota. Once you have that access, then you're going to click on the link there and plug in your email and your password, and you'll hit the forward button, which will get you to the next screen, which will be book your appointment. And so as you'll see in this example, this is for Chicago here. So that's where you can always just verify to make sure that you've selected the correct consulate at the top there. And then you'll see also in the upper right-hand corner, it has Italian or English. Make sure you're selecting English unless you can read Italian, which would be fantastic if you can. If not, just make sure that you're clicking on the English in the upper right-hand corner so it translates everything for you and makes your life a little bit easier. When you're on this booking appointment, you want to select, there's lots of options here, but to book an appointment, simply select the tab that says book. Once you get there, you're going to see services provided by that particular headquarters or that consulate. So I've highlighted these two. This is for the mail and drop off. So you'll want to select the categories and services. So visa and study, this is for mail and drop off, and you would select book. If you were going for an in-person appointment in front of a visa officer, which I will say are challenging to get, you can get them, but you could try that option. You would select visa for the category, and the service would be visa, and it would be appointment for Schengen and national visa. So you would select book. Once you select the type of service that you want and you hit the button that says book, you're going to have another series of questions in which you are going to fill out here. And so the booking type would be a single. You would enter in your passport number. So I mentioned that earlier. Not only are you going to need a PDF copy of it, but you're going to need that number. For the reason of stay, you're going to select studio, which is for study. And then you're going to upload those files here. And then when you're finished with those questions, you want to make sure that you mark off the privacy policy and then select the button afterwards. It says after you, and that will take you to the next screen. And so the next screen is the actual scheduling of the appointment. They will give you the months, and they're in Italian. So it's a great way to kind of start your Italian lessons, I guess, or get familiar. And you'll see that they have a key. Green is good, right? Green is available. Red is not available. So you will select the day that works for your schedule. And when you select that day, you will see a series of time slots available to you. And it'll also give you at that time how many slots are available with the consulate. So select what works for your schedule and hit book. After you do that, you will get details, an email or a pop-up screen that will say your appointment details. So it'll have all your booking details. If it's in red and it's in a box, it's important. Please read it. You may have to, if you're doing that in-person appointment, you're going to have to confirm that appointment. And it may be 10 to 3 days prior to that. If there's details about a mail-in or a drop-off, you're going to have to print this page and include it in your documents so they know that you have an appointment scheduled for a mail-in or a drop-off. So please pay attention to the information here. Don't kind of blow through it. It's there for a reason, so read through it. To verify your appointment, if you want to go back after you've done this, you can go back into the Prenoта system, and at the top you can select My Appointments, and this is where you will see what type of appointment you have, the date, the time, the status. In this instance, on this exam, it says to be confirmed. And so in that 10 to 3 day window, this currently says cancel operation. You don't want to do that, but it will switch to confirm operation. So just be mindful of that when you are doing scheduling through the Prenota system for an independent submission. And then it's slightly different in looking if you're going to do that mail or drop off. It will tell you the dates in which there's availability. It'll have a window, even though you're mailing it in, you can't control the time. But for whatever reason, the consulate with their software system has to put like a 9 to 10 or something built in there, and it'll say the number of appointments they have for that day for a mail in or a drop off. If you are doing a drop off, then I would adhere to the time frame that they put in there. Um, in addition to that, this is the appointment details, as I mentioned. So you want to make sure that you print those out or any information, additional information they have on there for those appointments. So scheduling your appointment through Prenota. If you are having a difficult time finding an available appointment, I encourage you to check the website multiple times throughout the day. Appointments get dropped, changed, whatever. There was kind of this misnomer of if you go on at midnight, they clear the system. I think that used to be the case many years ago, but as things get changed or dropped, they're available right away. So just go on to the Prenota website and just keep looking. That's your biggest recommendation I say to you if you're trying to schedule that appointment. And don't leave it to the end. That's another thing. If you're going to do the independent submission, you should be looking for that as soon as possible. One thing to note here is you can only have one Prenota reservation account with one consulate. So you would have to delete your account for Chicago and make another one if Detroit was your home state and you wanted to use the Detroit one. Otherwise, you can toggle between when you're in Prenota. You can change the consulate. So if you wanna, you have one account, you can toggle it between Chicago and then switch it over to Detroit if you wanted to see what's available there. In addition to that, You could potentially create two accounts, even though I know I just said you can only have one. But if you do the two accounts, you're going to have to slightly change your name or your information. So, like if we had a Joseph, the Chicago account, Prenota account could be Joseph, and the Detroit one could be Joey, something like that. So, you're going to have to play with the system to kind of work around if you wanted those two accounts to create, and you'd have to use different email addresses for those as well. But there's ways to kind of work around that if need be. And if you're having difficulties, you can reach out to me, and I'm happy to help walk you through that. So let's talk about the required visa documents, what you need, regardless of a group visa submission or independent submission. You still have to collect all the documents. So let's get into that information. I always tell students, I want to make another plug. There is a document checklist on the Go Global brochure page for the Rome Center. It is under the Visa and Passport tab. So it's important that you look there because that's easily accessible to you electronically wherever you're at. We also have hard copies here in our office. So should you prefer the traditional paper, come on by our office. It's up at the front desk and you can ask for that. But let's talk about what documents you do need for that visa submission. Most of the required documents are the same for all the Italian consulates in the United States. As I keep mentioning, some consulates may require additional or different documents. So again, I want you going onto the source of truth, which is the website for the consulate that you're going to use. That's why I say always check your specific Italian consulate's website for the most current requirements. The next thing is planning ahead. Start early. Assembling your application can take anywhere from 8 to 10 hours of focused preparation. There's a lot of documents that you have to get printed. These are all hard copies that you have to do. It involves banks. It involves the application itself, copies of things like that. So this is not something I would wait to do till the day before an appointment or that. So make sure that you're focused and giving it the attention that's needed so that you can get those copies done. Lastly, one of the other things with the visa documents is processing time. Realistically, it can take 6 to 8 weeks, so you need to be prepared for that. So if you are going to do that independent submission, you want to make sure that you're getting that appointment early, as soon as possible. If you're going to do the group submission again, which we highly encourage you to do, make sure you have everything ready for that September 8th, 9th, or 10th, and that that you make an appointment on Navigate for that. And then lastly, as I've mentioned the whole time, the passports will remain with the consulate during the processing time. So avoid any international travel until its return. So um, we encounter that a lot with students that are planning something, international travel for Christmas or Thanksgiving or something like that. Really, you got to plan ahead and do that forward thinking on what option works the best for you. So, gathering your study visa documents that you need for your submission, you are going to need a completed long-term visa application, the 91 to 365 days. And I do have a slide that has links to this, and it's also on our Go Global page under that passport visa tab. And it's also on each consulate's website as well. So that's the first thing. You're going to have to complete that long-term visa application. In addition to that, you're going to need a passport photo. So you'll notice when you're on that application form, in the upper right-hand corner, there's a box for a photo. So that passport photo is not to be taken off of your phone with your passport. This is an official passport photo. So you will need to go to like a Walgreens, a CVS. Our campus card office here at Loyola will do that as well. I think it's like $10 and you get two of them. So feel free to come to the Sullivan Center and get it taken care of there. In addition to that, you are going to need your valid passport that we talked about, plus a photocopy. any photocopies that you need of like your passport, your driver's license, state ID, or your Loyola ID, we can do it here at our office in the Sullivan Center in Suite 206. So just come on up. We're open from 8:30 to 5. Just tell the student worker at the front desk that you're going to Rome and you need some photocopies made, and they will be happy to do it for you. They're well versed in the documents for the consulate as well, so you can ask questions there. And of course, if I'm available, I'll always answer questions. But I prefer that you set up a navigate. If you catch me in between meetings, of course I'll answer your questions if I'm available. But if you want dedicated time to questions that you have, set up that navigate appointment. For non-US citizens, you will need an original and a copy of your permanent residence card or other US immigration documents allowing re-entry into the United States. The next document that you'll need to have is, as I mentioned earlier, is a photocopy of your driver's license or state ID plus a photocopy of your Loyola ID. Now, I always like to tell sometimes we have visiting students that are from other institutions. You don't need a photocopy of the Loyola ID because the acceptance letters, which I'm going to talk about in the next bullet point, suffice as far as showing proof that you are a Loyola student for that semester. But for my Loyola students, you're here already and you have that Loyola ID. So we do want you to have a photocopy of that so it's easier for the consulate so they know. So that takes care of that bullet point. The next one is the study abroad insurance and acceptance letters. That is provided through Loyola. Those are things that I create, and you will need to submit those with your visa application. And so those will be made available to you. Hopefully by the end of the week, I have them printing and ready right now. You will need to physically come into our office to pick them up. We cannot provide those to you electronically because the acceptance letter has a raised up seal on it. And so the consulate is looking for that seal from Loyola. And so I will send an email when they are ready for pickup, and you will just come to our office. No appointment is needed. Just come during our hours of operation and have your Loyola ID and say, I'm here to pick up my acceptance letter and my insurance letter. And the front desk workers have it in a file that's locked up. They'll look it up. You'll fill out form on the computer and you will have those letters. We always tell you to look over those letters, make sure the spelling of your name is correct, make sure the dates are correct, things like that. It's easier to catch those things upon pickup so that we can fix it if need be, and such. So again, those will be available starting next week. So if there's anyone local in the Chicago area and you want to come pick them up before the school starts, feel free. Otherwise, I recommend pick them up as soon as you get here on campus. In addition, the next item that you'll need is proof of financial means, and we'll talk a little bit further about what that is and what it looks like. You'll also need a confirmed flight itinerary. So you're going to print that out from the carrier, the airline carrier in which you booked your round trip flight, because the consulate wants to see proof of when you're coming into their country and when you're leaving their country. You'll also need to produce a money order or a cashier's check. This is payment for visa processing to the consulate. And so I'll go over that in the next few slides as well. And then lastly, a prepaid return envelope if you are not participating in the group submission. If you are participating in the group submission, we'll communicate to you when everything's been returned, and you'll have to schedule an appointment via Navigate. We'll set certain dates in which you can come to our office and pick it up. So just making sure you are aware of that. Let me go here. All right, so essential Chicago consulate resources. This is helpful. Again, all these resources are on our Go Global, the forms and the documents, but I have them hyperlinked in here, so you can always go back to this resource. It talks about the passport visa requirements for the application. itself is here as well. There's a template. I give you a sample of how to fill out that application. So when you look at that application, you're going to see a lot of questions and it's going to feel daunting. But don't worry, I have a template. I tell you how to answer that. You just have to be very conscientious when you're filling it out, which you can fill out by hand. You can also type it if you have the software Adobe Acrobat. You can type in your information and print it. But I give you the blank one, and then I also give you the template as well. Then in addition to that, these are some additional documents that may be required depending upon your submission. What you're doing is an affidavit of support for students. That's if you are utilizing parents for financial support. And then a declaration for mailing passports. If you're mailing in, you will need to have this form filled out. Let's also just kind of talk a little bit about visa fee information. There is a fee that the consulate charges students for processing their student visas, and that fee will change every 3 months. And so it's on their website. And so right here is the link for that. It started July 1st, so we're good for 3 months from July 1st on for their amount, but I'll go over a bit of that some more if need be later on. Right now it's like $58.30, so you'll have to secure a cashier's check or a money order for the payment for that fee. So financial documentation, this is a part of those documents we were talking about, and it makes students a little bit nervous, so I like to kind of focus a little bit more on what is needed. So, and again, this is in relation to the Chicago consulate. It may be different at other consulates, so keep that in mind. So for financial support for the Chicago consulate, you need to provide and print out 6 most recent bank statements. Um, I think the bank statements are the easiest, most straightforward of the options. So with those bank statements, you have to have minimum funds are required. So it's $1,000 per month a stay. That is the calculation that the Chicago or the Chicago consulate dictates. So for those semester students, that's a minimum of $4,500. Now, depending upon your appointment, or if you do the group submission, in the situation of the group submission, because that's in September, you would need to have your most recent bank statement would be your August one. And your August bank statement would have to have an ending balance with a minimum of 4,500. The 5 previous bank statements can be much less. It can be $10, $20, but the consulate needs to see the bank history. That's why you need to print out 6 of them, with the most recent one having the minimum amount of money that they require. Um, if it's in your name as a student, that's great. Now, if you are using your parents, there's kind of one of two things. To make it a bit easier, perhaps your parents can transfer money into your account. And so therefore it's present by the time that August bank account comes into play. Or if they are uncomfortable doing that, your parents can be the financial supporters for the program and do the proof of financial support. Therefore, they would have to print out those 6 most recent bank statements. In addition to that, they would have to do what's called an affidavit of support. It's a form in which they would fill out and sign in front of a notary, and you would have to supply that in addition to the bank statements. So that's one option. Another one is doing a U.S. bank letter. Um, Banks get a little funny in which they don't like to sign a letter, and the consulate does require a signature on a U.S. bank letter. So you'll see in our document checklist all the finite details related to this, but I think for most students, the bank statements is the easiest route to go. And if it's in your name as a student, that is the best and easiest way to go. But if not, it's fine. You can use your parents' bank information. You just have to have that additional document, that affidavit of support. Now, if you are receiving financial aid, you filed a FAFSA for this academic year. and you are receiving financial aid, you and everybody's financial aid package is different, and I don't have access to that. Only you would know that, and the financial aid office. Um, if that amount of financial aid meets or exceeds the consulate's required amount, which is 4,500, you can submit an email to lufinaid@luc.edu and request a financial aid award letter. As I said, if that meets or exceeds that amount, then all you need to do is print that, and that will be your proof of financial support. You don't have to deal with the bank statements or a bank letter. So keep that in mind. If you do have financial aid, you can simply request that financial aid award letter and supply that as your proof of financial support. If you have any questions about this, I am happy to answer them. I know it can be, like I said, a bit daunting. I'm here to support you through that. So feel free to email me or reach out via Zoom and navigate, and we can discuss this further. So flight requirements. The consulate needs to have proof that you've purchased a flight. And so that is required for the visa submission. So if you are planning to do the group visa submission, which is in September, early September, I recommend that you start looking at flights and purchasing a round trip flight to Italy as soon as possible. You're going to upload your flight itinerary to your Go Global portal. That's important from a safety point of view. We work with our staff in Rome, so when you're going, and especially for the students in the spring, there could potentially be weather delays. So if all of a sudden you were supposed to show up on January 13th and you didn't, we can easily go into that flight itinerary that you uploaded to see if something was delayed. Also, communication is key. Let us know if you're delayed. Email the Rome account so that we all are on the same page and we know that you're going to be delayed. But getting back to booking your flights, I also recommend to students that you book changeable or refundable flights when possible. Life throws some crazy curves at you. So, we don't want you to incur heavy changes or fees should you cancel or have to change something. As I mentioned, the Italian consulate requires that round trip reservation. Um, you can do a one-way ticket if you were a year-long student, but because you all are spring of 27, that's not going to be the situation. So you will need to produce a round-trip reservation. That reservation from the airline is going to have your name as a student. It's going to have a confirmation number on it, and it's going to have all the details of your flights coming to Italy. Again, just as a reminder, your arrival on campus is January 13th. 2027, and your departure from campus is April 30th, 2027. So that's important when you're booking flights. So again, take a look at that Rome Center academic calendar just to verify information there for you. So money order and return envelope. So we talked a little bit about this earlier, but I just want to clarify the money order situation. The consulate has, as I mentioned, a fee to review your student visa. And so they want to be paid via money order or cashier's check. And so you're going to want to just confirm the current visa fee under their website that I provided earlier on in the presentation. And when you click on that counselor fee tab, you're going to see a document and it's all in Italian and it does not translate to English. So you're going to have to trust me when I say it's the very last item, which is the Visto Nazionale per motivo di studio. And that will tell you the amount that you will need to have that money order or cashier's check made out to. For right now, as of July 1st, that amount is $58.30. And as I said, that's good for 3 months. So that would be good for the students that are participating in the group visa submission. This is just an example of what a postal money order looks like. You can get a money order or cashier's check from the post office, which is sample that I have here. You can get them from your bank or from what are called currency exchanges. Be mindful, there's a fee usually associated with printing out a money order or cashier's check. So you would have to provide them not only the amount of money that you want this made out to, the $58.30, but there may be like a $2 fee associated with it as well. So just be aware of that. When you're filling out, for example, the postal money order, this is the information you're going to have to fill out. So your full name, your home address, your phone number. It should be made payable to the Consulate General of Italy in Chicago, or in Boston, whatever the case may be. I always say if there's a memo section, make sure to put Italian visa fee. That's important. Also, lastly, do not make any changes or corrections, including like whiteout. Altering money orders will not be accepted by the consulate. So be aware of that. So return envelope reminders. This is important for students that are doing that independent submission. You need to include a prepaid, self-addressed, trackable return envelope. That envelope needs to have the to and from sections that must include your applicant, your name and your home address. This is again specifically for the return envelope. What the consulate is going to do, the consulate will not fill these out. They will not pay for any of this. So you have to supply that to them. You have to make it as easy as possible for them so that when they're done processing your visa, they're going to take that envelope that you provided, put in your passport and that stamped acceptance letter, seal it, and send it off. So the key thing is they want the to and the from to include your name and address. Again, I always say send it to your home address. Don't send it to a Loyola address. I think it's easiest and safest to go back home where your parents or guardians are. Um, Another big thing I tell students, keep a copy of your tracking number so that you know where it's at when it does get shipped out. That's super important. I get many students ask, and then I'm like, what's your tracking number? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, oh, you should have taken a picture of it. So make sure you do that. We recommend that you use FedEx or UPS. It's safer. There's a tendency, no shade on the United States Postal Service, but there's a tendency for things to get lost or stolen a little more frequently than using FedEx or UPS. So that's what we recommend to you, and that's what the consulate recommends as well. If you are doing that return envelope, make sure that you fill out that consent to send by mail form that I provided the link to earlier in the presentation. Again, it's also on our Go Global brochure page. So keep that in mind. Timeline and important dates. We're wrapping it up here for y'all. Appointment timeline, when to schedule. If you are going to do the group visa submission, you can schedule the Navigate appointments with me, or it's with me for September 8th and 9th, September 8th, 9th, and 10th. That's available to you now. So if you want, jump on Navigate, get that booked already. Make sure you have all your documents ready for those dates. If you are going to do an independent submission through one of the consulates, the earliest you can do is 100 days before the start of the program. Lucky for you, that started July 17th. So as of right now, it's open. You can schedule that independent submission if you are wanting to do that. And I recommend that. If it doesn't work out for you to do the group submission, get that appointment scheduled now with a consulate. It can be no later than 30 days before the start program. So if you are going to schedule an appointment for an independent submission, that appointment can be no later than December 14th. So as I keep saying, and I'll reiterate again, book as early as possible because those appointments fill up quickly. For example, the Chicago consulate serves 11 different states. So if you can imagine all the colleges and universities within those 11 states, they're all filtering through this office. So the earlier you can book it, the better. Visa workshop and document review. This is important because we not only have this visa workshop that we are going through right now, kind of giving you an outline of what's needed, but we also have visa workshops throughout the semester. So we have lots of dates that we incorporate into the semester in which you can come to our office on those dates and times. No appointment needed, just drop in. we're here. It's kind of what I call a study hall. Come meet other students that are going to Rome and need assistance with the visa process. We'll go over, we'll look at documents, we'll talk to you, we'll help you set up accounts with Prenota if need be. Um, the key thing, as I mentioned, that group submission is September 8th, 9th, and 10th. Well, we have a visa drop-in session on September 2nd. So that's a great opportunity. If you've collected all your documents while you're at home or right when you got here, come on September 2nd. We'll take a look at that so that you're ready for those group submission dates. So lots of options for you and resources. And then document review. Just remember, I am here to help you. I I do this every semester, so please feel free to reach out to me with questions, set up an appointment via Navigate. If you're a visiting student, you can set it up through bookings. If you're having troubles with that, just email me and I'll set up a Zoom, an independent Zoom for you if you're a visiting student. I'm located in the Sullivan Center in Suite 206. So know I'm a resource and I'm here to help you through this process. And then I just think it's important to just kind of know this is, again, we encourage you to use the Chicago consulate, but here's their address. They recently relocated, so this is the new address for them. So here's their information. Here's their address, here's their email, here's their phone number. These are some important links I just kind of added at the end here just for their the consulate for Chicago, their study visa points, their fees, their contacts, things like that. So that's a resource for you as well. And so now we'll just kind of open up to any questions that you may have. Happy to answer those. And my colleague Adam is here as well. So if you've put something in the chat, he may have already responded to you. If not, feel free to add something and we can address it or just do a shout out.